I'm just wondering, um, are you guys aware of how isolated you are?
There are a number of countries that have called for a ceasefire. We've made clear that while we support humanitarian pauses, we think a ceasefire that would allow the leadership of Hamas that plotted and planned October 7th to continue to carry on in Gaza and plan future attacks is one that's unacceptable. About everything.
How about any country?
So
you don't agree with any country.
That is
Except
not at all.
Maybe Israel.
That is not at all. We don't agree with Israel on everything related to this conflict.
Events of Friday, particularly the veto at the Security Council, the Secretary's meeting with the Arab and Islamic foreign ministers, and then the emergency determination on the tank munitions to Israel. I'm just wondering, are you guys aware of how isolated you are?
So I would answer that by saying every time we engage with one of our partners in the region and our partners around the world, what the Secretary hears is the indispensability of American leadership, both in helping to resolve this conflict and bring an end to it that guarantees the destruction of Hamas, and in planning for the days and weeks and months and years to come. Now, that doesn't mean that we have agreements with everyone in the region about the best way forward. Obviously, we don't. There are a number of countries that have called for a ceasefire. We've made clear that while we support humanitarian pauses, we think a ceasefire that would allow the leadership of Hamas that plotted and planned October 7th to continue to carry on in Gaza and plan future attacks is one that's unacceptable. While we have disagreements, ultimately, that American leadership is critical both in this conflict and to broader issues in the region.
And you think that you're demonstrating American leadership now?
Absolutely, and that does not mean that we are going to agree with every country about everything.
About any country.
So
you don't agree with any country.
That is not at all.
Maybe Israel.
That is not at all. We don't agree with Israel on everything related to this conflict.
Well, but what happened on Friday and Saturday, and over the weekend, you have one country that stands.
So I think if you've looked at the results of our diplomacy over the past few months, you cannot take any one piece of data, be it a UN Security Council vote or anything else, and say that that represents the sum and total of our diplomacy, because it doesn't. There are other things that we've done in working with the G7, with partners in the region, that we'll continue to work on.
So the bottom line is you're not concerned that that it appears the rest of the world, with the exception of Israel,
I would say
is angry at you, and is not, is unhappy with the position that the administration has taken, and that is American leadership.
I would say that this conflict has posed a number of obstacles for Israel, for countries in the region, for the United States, for the entire global community. And so we are trying to resolve this conflict, as I said, ultimately with a result that protects civilian lives to the maximum extent possible, that ensures that Hamas cannot rearm and refit and launch the attacks of October 7th again. We're trying to work on how to achieve a lasting, secure peace for the Palestinian people and the Israeli people and the establishment of an independent Palestinian state. And we are engaged every day, from the president and the secretary on down. And I will say that even when we have policy disagreements, including sometimes very serious policy disagreements, every country that we engage with says they want to see America engage. They want to see America engage both in helping to manage this conflict, and helping to prevent the conflict from spreading, and helping to plan for post-conflict governance in Gaza and beyond. So I know that's a long way of answering. The point I'm trying to make is you can't take a disagreement at the Security Council or a disagreement over pieces of the policy, and I think impute broader, broader trends from that, other than to say that, of course, this conflict is posing challenges for every country in the world. It's posing very serious challenges, of course, to the government of Israel, and posing very severe difficulties to the Palestinian people. That's I think the first order question. For the United States, we're going to continue to try and stay involved because we think it's in the interests of Israel, the Palestinian people, broader regional security, and of course the security of the United States.
Last one. You're very fond of saying, you and every previous administration I've covered, very fond of saying, in terms of numerous conflicts, almost every conflict around the world, that there is no military solution to this. And yet your actions over the course of the last 5 days suggest that you think that there is, or that the only solution to this conflict is military. Is that an accurate reading?
No, I don't think that's an accurate, because I don't.
So you don't think there's a military solution?
No, let me answer it this way. I don't think it's an accurate reading because I think there would be other conflicts where we say there are potential military solutions. We think the Ukrainian military repelling Russian forces from their borders would be a military solution to that conflict.
Well, no, but that you've always talked about diplomacy at the end.
Of course, and there will have to be diplomacy at the end, but as an immediate...
Diplomacy at the end with Hamas, between Israel and Hamas?
No, I was talking about the first conflict. With respect to this conflict, we think there can be a military solution to taking out the leadership of Hamas that planned and carried out the attacks of October 7th, in taking out the militants who crossed into Israel and carried out those attacks. Ultimately, there is not a military solution to the broader issues between the Israeli people and the Palestinian people. That is something that cannot be solved militarily. It has to be something that is solved eventually, in our judgment, with the establishment of an independent Palestinian state.